Recording in progress.
old, so.
Yeah, it won't work. Yeah, no.
Am I gone?
Shuba. Hello.
Click here and here.
Hello. It's time to start. 6:02. All right. Everybody will take their seats. First, I'd like to call to order the Design Review Board meeting of Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. Next, if you would indulge us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, Shuba, come back. We'd like to introduce you and staff.
Michael Cardiman, Planner 2.
Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner.
And now our board members.
Casey Robinson, Bethany Bend.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Ken Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Rachel Greathouse, Hickory Flat.
With that done, I would like to discuss tonight's agenda. And I have an amendment to it if the board would entertain that. And my amendment would be to move up item 7C to 7B and move the other one back. One item is landscape and civil, and one item is architecture. And I'd like to deal with the architecture first and understand the building before we get into landscape and civil engineering. No reason to get into the civil till we understand the building. So can I get a motion to approve that
You
amendment?
said move 7C up.
Yes, we're gonna flip 7C goes to B and B
Gotcha.
goes to C.
I'll make a motion to move items 7C to 7B, tonight's agenda.
Have a second. All in
Say that
favor?
right?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I would like to get an approval or amendments to the Tuesday, February 7th, 2023 Design Review Board meeting. Is there any addendums, corrections? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the Tuesday, February 7th Design Review Board meetings minutes.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, with that, we'll move into item 5 on your agenda, which is the demolition of structures. And we're on 5A 13040 Arnold Mill Road. Would the applicant come up?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Here tonight for an application to demolish the existing residence at, this one is all of the structures at 13040 Arnold Mill Road. You should have in your packet a site plan showing the structure and the area of disturbance. This is an older residence that's lying inside the stream impervious setback. So we need to remove it to create compliance on this property. There are two very old tool shed structures also. So anyway, you should have in your packet pictures of the structures. And I think we'll all agree there is no significant or historical interest or in those structures. And we've located the trees and shown everything. So I would be glad to entertain any questions if you have on those structures.
Does the board have any questions? Board have any discussion?
Opposition.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Is there any opposition?
No.
In 3 or 4 years, there's never been any opposition to yours.
I didn't want to be,
You don't want somebody to call us
I didn't want to
later?
be litigated.
Very good.
Although the green roof is an attribute in this case.
The moss.
Yeah.
the moss. You do pick very nasty structures to work on, and so we're all overjoyed with your work. So hearing no opposition, I'll close the public hearing. And any discussion from the board? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the demo for 13040 Arnold Mill Road.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is 5B, 14825 Taylor Road.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004.
Any opposition? Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't break my train of thought. So-
Keep going, keep
Yeah.
going.
This application is for the removal of the old farmhouse on the existing horse farm there on Taylor Road. They're going to keep the existing stable and barns, pretty nice outbuildings, very nice piece of property here in the city of Milton. And they're going to remove the older existing house and construct a new house residence. So once again, you should have a site plan that shows the limits of disturbance, the structure to be removed, pictures of the structure to be removed and the other outbuildings. Once again, no historical or social significance to the structure. We've got the trees located and all, so should be pretty self-evident on the site plan. If you've got any questions, I'll be more than glad to try to entertain those. Thank you.
Do I hear any opposition to this case?
No.
With that said, we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the board?
I have a question. I don't think it really pertains to the demolition more so than which boundary is actually the front?
I think it's Taylor Road.
Because so is Taylor Road considered the front? Because there's a 50-foot rear setback.
Madam Zoning Manager.
Flag lot. It's a flag lot, right?
Technically, no. I think the legal frontage is Marshall's Cove or,
Yeah,
Because there's
there's still no 60.
so there's all 25-foot side building setbacks and then a 50-foot. I don't see a front. Not that I think that really makes any difference in this case.
Yeah.
So.
Frontage here and then frontage.
well, when we do the site plan for the new construction, we will battle that to the last tooth and nail. But
I would
it will
imagine it would be
be, we're going to
the,
stay 60 feet away from that
would be the west property line.
western,
This is their,
north up the
It should be
page,
the
over to the west.
Most parallel to Taylor Road.
but it has frontage on Marshall's Bluff.
It's pretty much similar, right?
Yeah, it would be that west
Yeah,
property line.
west property line.
Would be the 60.
We're
sorry?
gonna have to make them
West property
correct.
line would be the 60-foot front building line.
It abuts Marshall's Bluff. That's
Okay.
Right away.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the demolition at 14825 Taylor Road.
Have a second?
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're going to change directions here and move to our courtesy reviews. And that's where we're reviewing items that are going to go to the BZA. We make recommendations, we look at the architecture, and we recommend what we think BZA should do. We do not vote on these items. Therefore, we're going to start with item 6A under courtesy reviews, 14726 Wood Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. I'm here tonight representing Carolyn Bell of Fortitude Farm in their application for a special use permit and the accompanying variances to allow the construction of a covered riding arena and an addition to the existing stable. As I'm sure you're all aware, covered arenas in the city of Milton require a use permit granted by city council. This was kind of enacted a few years back to kind of place a control on scheduled horse shows and events. They were trying to get a feel before the allowing construction of these arenas that they were for training more so than a event facility. So that's why we're here. Miss Bell is on this property since approximately 2002. The facility has been in effect or in operation since the early 1990s. It preceded the construction of the White Column subdivision, which is adjacent on the east side. Miss Bell, for the last 12 years, operated the large horse farm there at Bethany and Hopewell Road, formerly known as Yellow House, and it had a covered arena. We have new ownership at that property, so she needed to go back to her original farm. That farm does not possess a covered arena, and her business plan for the city of Milton's riders is such that you have to be able to schedule workouts on the horses and the rider for preparation of the major shows, and it has to be on schedule. And that requires an all-weather facility, i.e. a covered arena. So we have an existing facility with lots of things in place, but we do not have a covered arena. So I'm going to try to show you the site plan. Is that gonna? Hopefully, do you guys see it?
There it is. We do.
Okay, all right. So what you see highlighted in blue are existing conditions. On the northeast corner in blue is the existing stable. And in red, you'll see the proposed stable addition. Please note that the proposed stable addition is farther away from the property line than the existing stable. So we did that on purpose to try to make sure we were giving the neighbors as much buffering as possible. And then you'll notice the proposed arena kind of further south on that right-hand side. Highlighted in red is the proposed covered arena. In blue, you'll see the existing uncovered riding ring. We met with staff several times, the applicant trying to find a place for this that was the least obtrusive on the property, and it basically came down to put it over the existing uncovered arena. So you'll see there the proposal, everything else is existing that we're asking for a variance on. I wanted to show you this site plan or this drawing because, as I'm sure you're aware, variances are not taken lightly in the city of Milton, and we have 4 parts that we need to address. Being one of those being, does the property have any existing conditions that would be considered extraordinary or create a hardship? So the use permit requires 100 feet of setback from any property line for the covered arena, and it has to be outside of the stream buffers and the impervious setback. So I've tried to highlight in red and green those unusable areas. So I think we can all agree that this property does meet the definition of having some extraordinary situations with the streams, the extreme topo that down there in the southeast corner. I just want to emphasize again the variances that we're requesting. All of them except for the two that we've addressed, the stable and the arena, are for existing conditions. This, to kind of give you an idea, this structure is completely designed for form. There is nothing else. It has to be a certain height. The veterinarian stressed to us when we were going through that if a horse panics and were to jump out the side to not cause the beheading of a rider, it has to have a certain height. And that is the minimum height that we've put on the side. The structure has, it's kind of, I think it's a 512. Anyway, this picture represents from the same company as close to a facility as we can mimic. So I'm hoping you got a good view of that. This is the schematic of the building. You'll notice the miter in the one corner. That is to try to keep the absolute minimum of disturbance beyond what we've already disturbed. Once again, this is a building completely based upon form. It has to have minimum size to allow the horses to generate enough speed for their training in the jumping. It has to have the requirements for the height for safety reasons. So we understand that it's maybe not what some people would love to have in their backyard. We feel like we're far enough away that it shouldn't be dramatic. And we have, in our meetings with the neighbors, have tried to come up with any plans we could to mute the effect. We really couldn't get a good census or consensus from the neighbors. They agreed. So we're going to kind of rely upon the community development director, city architect, but we want to mute the color of the roof. And probably for lack of a better term, an olive green. That seemed to be the most palatable to the neighbors. Like I say, we didn't really get a consensus, but that's where we're at. So I know I've kind of gone through. I just wanted to give you guys as much info as possible. I'm sure you will have extra questions that I can try, but for me trying to guess what those questions would be might just be a waste of time. So I'm hoping I've given you enough of an overview, and then in the question and answer period, hopefully we can address anything that you might have. Thank you so much for your time.
Do we have any opposition to this case?
I haven't gotten any letter. We have one comment card here with me. If anybody wants to talk in opposition, please. I just have one support, no opposition.
Okay. Hearing that, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the discussion to the board. And
You
I'll-
have one
One
support.
support. You can ask for the
they
support.
want to speak? Are they here? I thought it was a letter. I'm sorry. Yes, then they can come up.
Didn't plan on speaking, but I'm Gordon Hunter, 14680 Wood Road. We are across the creek and across the Wood Road from the applicant, and we've been there for 40 years. And we think that the horse operation has been a very good thing for the city of Milton, and Carolyn Bell has done a good job. We think that this is going to enhance the horse industry and within the city of Milton and not really affect the neighbors surrounding it. I think there's enough buffers that have been put in place here that it should be adequate. And I just want to let you know we do approve of the design and plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll put on the record, I've had a couple of calls in opposition. I told them to show up tonight. Many times they don't show up to DRB because we recommend and they go to BZA. So I would, and Scott, you know this, you'll have probably, if there is opposition, it'll be at BZA, not here.
Planning Commission, this is a different.
Yeah,
special
I'm
use
sorry,
permit,
Planning Commission.
Not to step on you.
Yeah.
So we will be going.
Well, it's the second time tonight, but that's
I'm
okay.
sorry, well,
You've done this as much as I have.
payback.
You know, when you're good, you're good.
So as Charlie is, I'm sure, aware, and just had a slight.
Seen them.
Yeah, there you go. That use permits go through the Planning Commission and City Council. So we will be before Planning Commission, that will give the neighbors a chance to speak if there's something that we can do. Ms. Bell wants to be a good neighbor. She would like to, mute the effects. We will go through conditions as far as hours, indoor lighting, trying to, any plantings around the base that might soften the effect. I mean, I know the height of and the size of the structure. It's a little bit tough. It's just, the equestrian community to preserve what is different about Milton than, say, Johns Creek. The horse farms are very important. And if we lose many of them as being a former cattle producer in this very area, when you're the last one, it just doesn't work. So I would hope that we could find a way that we can make this work and satisfy the neighbors as best we can.
All right. With that, we're going to close the public hearing and we're going to start some discussion. And tonight I'd like to start with some comments and then we'll open it up to the rest of the board members. First, I think we need to be clear and be on record. There's variances and use permits for new things. And there are variances and use permits for existing things. And those two things are very different. If this was a new proposal for a riding ring and a horse farm, after 5 years on the board, I would be in a very different posture than I'm going to be in a minute. I just want everybody to hear that and the gentleman that spoke in favor, I'm going to end up following along his same line of thinking. This is a existing condition. This is an existing farm. And the one probably biggest equestrian road we have in Milton is Wood Road. Just to remind myself of that, my wife and I spent an hour and a half there and on the property Sunday, driving all of Wood Road, looking at every property, looking at the houses above and being up there and then driving the property and all of Wood Road. So Wood Road is an equestrian road and always has been. This is an existing property, as Mr. Reese pointed out. Also, this variance and use permit is also the vision of Milton. Vision of Milton is very important that this go to Planning Commission and not forget that the vision of Milton isn't necessary to worry about who's the last cow farm, but that there are cow farms and that we protect them as much as we can. So we open this discussion. This is an existing facility. It's very nice out there. It is what Milton wants, and it is this might be different on Freemanville or many other roads, Birmingham Highway, but Wood Road is gravel, Wood Road is horses and big lots. So it meets everything that we are striving to keep. So that's where I start this discussion, and that's where I want to make sure that Planning Commission hears our input. Now, the next thing I want to get on record is architecture is important to us, and I'm going to make a recommendation to the council and Planning Commission that this case comes back to us if it's approved, and we need to look at architecture. I hear you, Mr. Reese, on all the reasons for the height and all that, but we do need some shrubbery. I don't love a wood pine unfinished deck here. And so I want this case to come back, if it's approved, and look at architecture, some brackets. The barn's very cute out there. The paint colors are real cute, white and green. Those brackets on the doors and things are very nice. And we want to see that come on over here to any improvements, especially improvements that require lots of use permits and variances and all the, this is one of the most complicated and most far-reaching I've seen. So that's my second recommendation, is this comes back to this board. And so tonight, let's don't talk about shrubs, brackets, and the color of the roof, because we don't have that. And that's not planning commission's role to do design. That's our role. And this isn't ready for us to ring in on any design issues. So we want it to come back to us. And of course, in a minute, the rest of the board's going to ring in on their thoughts. As you work on that architecture, there's a theme out there that's real nifty and real cute and really, and I'm a developer. I've won a lot of national awards for design. There's a lot of nice features out there that need to come on over to this new structure and the extension of the stables. We don't want to see a stick-on addition on those stables that from both sides don't have that same exterior design and attention to detail. Whoever built this a long time ago did a very nice job on the architecture. So I think with those said, and Michael, you getting this, or Robin, are you getting this? So
We're all taking notes.
Yeah.
good. So that all goes to planning commission. And this one's important enough that I plan on attending to see how it goes. With those things said and sort of setting the tone for maybe a shorter meeting on this, let's just talk about the use and the variances and the problems that the board sees and wants to discuss, and we'll leave architecture to when it comes back. We are not, Robin, approving this architecture tonight because it's sketchy at best. All right, now I'm going to open up comments from the board.
What is the F and the yellow line?
Floodplain.
Goodness gracious. I just couldn't figure it out, but that's fine. Is the reason why you, they chose to go on top of the current site because you really can't fit it on the other side of that creek? It just doesn't make sense. And then it gets
Yeah,
too topey on the right.
It will not fit on the other side of the creek. I mean, between the 100-foot setback and the stream buffers. And it's one thing, especially with the state and with Milton, when a stream buffer has been compromised, that's a different entity than creating a compromised stream buffer. So the consensus with the city engineer, and he and I dealt with the state EPD, in their opinion, if don't increase, but the existing, gravel pad arena that's been there since the 90s, that soil is compacted, that compromising of the stream buffers has occurred, and that was the consensus. Put it on here. Don't grade on the 40, or the extreme slopes down on that southeast corner. Don't lose all those trees. There's 40 feet of elevation difference across. It's virtually impossible.
So this is beyond just being nice to have an outdoor arena and possibly an indoor arena.
No,
This is just a water issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, and it was addressed some 30 years ago, and we don't want to exasperate that. And we understand that when we add this impervious roof surface, that we're going to have to do some stormwater maintenance or management, so, mitigation on that. So
Can I just ask a question about, I know we're not going over building architecture, I get it, but why did you lop off the side of the building?
The 50-foot
Why?
because
Just because of the 50
we do
foot?
not want to encroach any more into, or we were told that we did not want to encroach any more into the stream buffers than we already were.
Okay.
And trying to sit a foot.
Seems a little aggressive.
Maybe finding compromise.
That was what it is. That building is much more expensive than a rectangle.
I'm sure.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that same thing is, could they move this to another location? Between stream buffer and floodplain, it looks to me like 9 out of the, maybe more out of the 13 acres are basically unbuildable. Even on the kind of southeastern end, the topography on there is it's almost a 40-foot drop.
Elevation
So
change.
then we'd be looking at a 30-foot tall wall. And, looking at the surrounding topography too, it looks to me like even the lowest house from the existing neighbors is, over 27 foot higher than where the base of this would be. And I'm assuming with an 18-foot to our band, I don't know what the height to the ridge is. I would suggest if it does come back through DRB is to
Yeah, it's
tell us
30
the height
feet
of
at
that
the peak.
ridge.
I'm sorry, 30 feet at the peak.
Okay. And so, at most, I feel like the top of that structure would be at the basement level of a house that's 200 feet away at closest from what I calculated from when I drove around there. So,
Scott, confirm for me this, there are no houses seeing this that aren't more like 75 or 100 feet higher up a hill?
I'm not going to go 75. I'm going to say maybe a basement. I think 48 feet is working off county topography would be the
Above.
basement. Yes, an elevation above. So they will be viewing over this structure.
Also, looking out over the structure to all that lawn, horses, paddocks, and the view they have. The view is not just down on this roof,
Yes,
but it's out over 15 acres, creeks, and green. It was beautiful out there on
It's a
Sunday.
macro view as opposed to a micro. If you want to concentrate on the negative, I guess you could, but I think we want to accentuate the positive.
Like always, you're over my head,
Well,
but it's just a great view, not a bad view.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Run with that. That sells better. So, and this is just the facts, folks. This is what's there. And on these complicated cases, I want to see it. And would I love to live on the hill looking out over all those horses and green grass versus 10 or 15 houses, which many neighborhoods do. So here, we won't get into the legal, but I don't find this to be abusive or harmful to the adjacent property owners. Next points.
yeah, I mean, I agree with what you had said earlier. I mean, our insignia is a horse.
Yeah.
And if this isn't the epitome of what, the city of Milton is, what we're looking for, I don't know what is. So, for that reason, I do feel like this should come back. I love the barn. I feel like adding on to that, as long as it meets what's currently there, should have no problem with, in my opinion, if it comes back through. But, yeah, from what I see, I would recommend approval.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we move ahead here? Do we need to, are we all in agreement? So our recommendation, Robin, is to request they find a way to approve this through all these various issues, and that we find this to be appropriate for Milton. We especially find this appropriate on Wood Road. And we do want it to come back to see us for the architecture piece of this. Otherwise, we would request they get it approved.
Thank you so much for not killing the horses.
There you go. All right, we're going to move ahead with our next case, item 6B. Under the courtesy reviews also, 6B is courtesy reviews, or 6 is courtesy reviews, 13990 Freemanville Road, Milton, Georgia.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mike Reed. I work for Mike Hammersmith General Contracting as a project manager, and I'm here as a request for 2 variances. Oh, I'm sorry. Here for a request for 2 variances, one of which is for an existing basketball court. Second is for an existing shed. Our hardship requests are going to be for number one for the basketball court, which was built, I believe, late 2018, 2019. First reason will have to do with, I guess, the family in the house. The mother has told me when she's in the house, it's the current site of the basketball court is very easy for her to see out of the kitchen, be able to see the kids playing. That's just one reason. Another reason has to do with the left elevation of the current house, and the rear of it is where the septic field and septic tanks are. So those were not options. An additional reason has to do with the limited amount of trees that probably had to come down at the current location of the court. Another reason is I think you have maps of the topography of this 9 acres. You can probably tell from the topography that this is the flattest area on this whole 9 acres. Everything else from this area kind of slopes downhill. So this meant minimal excavating, no footings, no retaining walls anywhere else on the property probably required heavier equipment, footings, retaining walls and things. I'd also like to mention that we have also got letters of approval from 4 surrounding neighbors, all giving their written approval that they've seen the site plan and they have no problems with the basketball court or the shed. Yeah, and as far as the shed is concerned, our hardship request is basically that it was existing prior to my clients purchasing this property. I believe they purchased it same area, late 2018, 2019. The shed has been there for approximately 13 or 14 years. Those are my requests. So any questions I can try to answer, I'd be happy to.
Is there any opposition to this case?
So we have 4, Michael has received 4 support letters, and we have 1 comment card here, but she has not said if she is in opposition or.
She's behind you.
Yeah. You want to speak? Okay, all right. We don't know if opposition or not.
Are you in opposition or?
We're not sure yet, to be honest with you. So this is all new to me, so I apologize if I mess up. But I'm representing a bunch of neighbors. We got letters yesterday in the mail about this, and we live on Easygoer Lane in Triple Crown. And if you know the Easygoer Lane cul-de-sac, there's a emergency access road that
You
is.
have 1 minute. Michael's going to put something up for us to see.
So we don't really know what the plan is. We don't see the basketball court. We do see a shed. It's a red shed. And what we didn't understand is what even the letter meant. And when I came here this evening, because out of all the moms, I was the only one that was available, honestly. I said, I'll go and I'll figure out because we are neighbors. I mean, my house is right next door to them. It backs up and is right next door to them. And Rachel's been to my house, actually. And we weren't even given any plans or anything. So we came, I'm here today to understand what this means, what the site plan, like why is this happening now, so we can understand it. So then we can figure out, are we opposed or not? Because right now we don't really understand what's going on, other than we saw now after getting the letter, we saw the green sign, and I saw that even though the letter said come on the 21st, I think, I saw the green sign.
Can you give her a little idea on what's happening?
So, and I'm representing everyone who got the letter on EasyGoer yesterday, so, sorry.
And I would mention, if you all are in favor, then you're probably not going to do anything. If you're in opposition, when you go to BZA, you need to have letters from them, because you really can't represent supposedly 20 people without, can I finish? Let me finish. Without them writing a letter and submitting it to staff, and or them being in the public hearing. So just whatever y'all want to do is fine. That's just the way you need to do it at BZA. Rather than say, I am representing, you need a petition or a letter and signatures and lot numbers. All right, well, I understand you don't know. Yes, sir. Kind of explain what you're doing and in layman's terms so the neighbors understand.
Yes, and I apologize that I didn't mention earlier. I think I can clear this up. I'm not real familiar with Easier Goer Lane, but I heard you say Triple Crown, so you're part of that neighborhood?
Yeah, we're right next door to them. We're the cul-de-sac.
So-
See from the house.
Okay, so the reason all this came up is I was actually hired by this client to build a guest house on the property. So I wasn't hired to do anything with this court. I was actually hired to build a guest house, which I've already gone through all the permitting steps for that, but I can't get the permit until this came up during an additional review. So
Can we
Triple
stop
Crown.
there?
Yes, sir.
For the neighbors. They want to build a guest house. But in doing that, they've found violations that go way back. And they've got to clean those violations up in this process before they can get a permit to do something new. So that's what's going on.
And in the red barn you're looking at, that's actually where the guest house will be. So that is, we've already gotten a permit, isn't that correct, to demo that?
Yep.
To demo that. What
You
I'm
need to
talking
speak
about-
into the microphone because we're recording this.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I'm talking about tonight is kind of on the other side of the property. If you're in Triple Crown, you probably can't even see the basketball court or the shed that I'm referring to. I think y'all have pictures of the shed that
All right,
I'm
for
referring to.
tonight, I think you need to get with the neighbors, her and the people she's representing, and have a meeting so that you're not doing this tonight or at BZA, and that you don't want people going to BZA that don't understand.
Okay.
And you need, as you got the 4 positive letters, which is really good, from the adjacent neighbors, I think you need to talk to this group and see if you can bring them on board, and then you won't have to endure this at BZA.
Okay.
So that's what I would tell you all. Tonight brought this out. Tonight brought out that there's a misunderstanding, and you need to solve that before BZA.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, now, with that said, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for their comments and thoughts on this case.
I have a question. Where's the front building setback?
I know, yeah, so this is the one that was,
Yeah.
that plat was approved.
I guess it's a
long
flag
ago.
lot, but there's
Yeah.
no,
So we quoted a plat from actually Brumberlow Reese and Associates from the 80s.
okay.
John. So we followed the setbacks that are platted from the 80s. So it moved forward when it became a city. So all the setbacks you see here are platted from the Fulton County in 1988.
Okay. So technically, there's no front setback. Okay.
Yeah.
So if the existing red barn, I think that the lady was talking about is going to be demolished, correct? And that is going to be the location of the future guest house?
Yes, sir.
So in this case, if there is technically not a front setback there, it meets the requirements within the setbacks. And from what I see, doesn't have any other restrictions. So therefore, there is no case regarding that structure.
Yeah,
This
for the
is
guest
solely
house,
for-
guest house was compliant. There was no
Okay.
issue with the guest house. It was just the existing stuff that had.
Just for the basketball court and the shed.
Correct.
Correct. And there's no work that will be done on the basketball court or the shed. Okay.
Correct.
No
They're
work to be
existing.
done.
Was the basketball court permitted in 2019?
No.
It was not.
It was not. Okay. Was the shed permitted?
It was older.
It was older. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Both of those structures are, the basketball court and the shed were there prior to the current owner?
The basketball court was built by the current owner. The shed was there prior to the current owner.
And he submitted a retroactive permit for the basketball court, and he's working on getting the shed permit submitted before we go to BZA.
So I had lost my train of thought, but the reason why I was asking about a front setback is so technically we don't allow accessory structures within front setbacks and the sides and so forth. So in this case, because we don't really have a front setback, the fact that the accessory structure is going to technically be into the side of the house, to the front of the house.
Well, we can consider that as a rear yard pretty much because it's in the back of the house.
Okay.
Yeah, we discussed this internally. It's behind the front plane of the house. That's why we deduced the location was fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Reed, you look like you have more discussion.
No, I'm just curious where they came up with all that, but that's good. I mean, that's fine.
Same. That's why I asked.
I'm curious. I'm more curious, but
More
no.
information from staff?
No, I don't need any more information. Thank you.
All right, could one of you board members give us the
Comments, yeah, recommendation.
what are you saying?
I was saying comments. We are noting your comments, right?
Our recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes, so I call the question here for recommendation from the board.
I'll make a recommendation to allow agenda item 6B, to allow existing court to encroach the 25-foot side setback by 14.4 feet, and to allow the existing accessory structure to encroach the 25-foot setback by 23.5 feet.
Our recommendation is then for approval.
Yes.
So we're recommending that BZA approve this. Do we have a second on that or any more discussion? Any other discussion? We have a second?
No,
I'll second that.
we're not voting.
Yeah,
voting.
we don't vote.
Oh, I'm
It's just-
sorry. I'm sorry. That's our recommendation. There you go.
Good luck.
Good luck,
Thank you.
BZA.
Thank you.
Get the neighbors educated. Next item is still courtesy reviews. Item 6C, 16055 Hopewell Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Michael Gobitis, and I'm here with my colleague Max. We're representing the Martienko family. They wanted to get a permit for a pool, and during the permitting process, it was discovered that the side setbacks were encroached by a couple of feet, and that the existing accessory structure is encroaching in the side setback as well. So we are asking for a variance to reduce those setbacks. The accessory structure has been on the property for a long time. Previously, the owner, so when this lot.
Can you define long time? Is that 3 years or 2 years or?
Long time. As far as the GIS shows, there's been a structure there. So I think up to like the 80s, I think that's as
Okay,
far
so
as
it is a
goes.
long time.
Yeah, so, and the owners have purchased the lot back in like 2016, and they demoed the existing single-family home and built their own house there. So when it was, when the new single-family home was approved, they were allowed to keep the accessory structure there. Now, the accessory structure, they've gone through some, it was a old building, the siding was falling apart, so they went ahead and refurbished the exterior. So they use it as a guest house. Other than that, if you have any questions, I can help answer anything.
All right, we'll ask if there's any opposition to this.
No opposition.
Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And then ask the board for its comments.
And they have 3 letters of support, all 3 bordering property owners, 16065, 16049, and 16045 Hopewell Road.
Okay, thank you. That's important to know.
Mhm.
All right, any discussion?
Where's the front setback? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's on there. 60 feet. There is no, I'm assuming this is because we're wanting to put a pool in, correct? So
Correct.
there is no setback for the pool decking, correct? It's just an enclosed structure. So on the site plan where they've got the proposed pool, continuing that line where it's over not even a half a foot, is allowable, correct, with the pool decking, as long as it's not a covered structure, correct?
Yep, pool
Okay.
decking is allowed.
10 feet.
Okay,
10 feet.
okay.
Okay. Can I get a recommendation to send to BZA?
Yeah, I'd say this is fine.
That's our shortest one yet. So our recommendation is that we don't find an issue why we should not request that they approve this. And wish you good luck at BZA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agree.
All right, now we're going to get into item 7, which are final reviews. And our first case is 7A 32 Heritage Walk, Market District, Building 3, Suite 102 is the applicant here.
Yep.
Good evening. I am here representing La Mer Restaurant at 3200 Heritage Walk, Building 3, Suite 102. We come here tonight requesting exterior improvements to include a steel patio enclosure with a metal awning system.
Ma'am, state your name and address, please.
Oh, my name is Candace Walker Bunda with Bunker Design Collaborative. The patio enclosure is proposed to be similar to a patio enclosure that was approved previously at an adjacent property. The patio enclosure is to be enclosed with a black fabric and acrylic panels. And the idea or concept behind this is to provide a seating area or exterior seating area for the patrons of the restaurant. In addition, there is an existing fixed window on the east corner of the building. The new tenant would like to replace that fixed window with a bifold roll-up window system that could be rolled up in order to serve patrons on the outdoor patio. The finish on that would be a black finish to match the steel structure, and the panes of the window or new bifold door would match what is existing.
All right. Thank you. Is there any opposition to this? Hearing no opposition, I'm going to close the public hearing. You can sit down.
Okay.
We have, board, seen this product before, and we've approved it before. We have the colors defined in the materials. So any discussion on this? Pete, you're frowning?
Not frowning.
Okay, not frowning. Okay, good.
Thank you.
So you're smiling.
This enclosure is going to be essentially facing the entrance into the area. Okay.
And we all love the patios in Milton. We all love the patios in Crabapple. And
Just I can't tell.
we
where
love
it's
that outdoor dining. I would, staff, and especially Robin, as you see these early on, if the developer even thinks he's going to want a patio, he needs to put this in his original drawing so they don't have to come back in. I'm all for these patios. The board is, the citizens of Milton are, and the developers ought to really think about this on the ground floor spaces where they're hopeful of a restaurant. And as we were on record before, we want a steel permanent roof and structure with the enclosures that can be replaced as they wear out and so on. But no canvas
On the left,
rooftops.
supposed to be the patio right here.
So there you go.
I'm sorry, can I get some clarification on what's the front, what's the sides to the street on this?
So
so can the guess.
entrance to the whole campus. So actually,
Patio to the right of the main road?
it's on this side. So the community burger road over here.
Patio on the left,
And so this is exactly the opposite.
exactly the opposite
Sort of in
patio.
the courtyard.
This exact same structure,
It's just on the other side of the building.
that's correct. So I
Same-
actually like that
Confused.
because it's not different.
And the same,
I'd probably recommend.
same architect here and group that did the last one.
Just with the roll up.
All right, so if there's no more discussion, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to recommend approval of final reviews A, Lemur at Market District and the enclosed canopy.
Let's see, did we get in there that, since there's others, 3200 Heritage Walk, Market District, Building 3, Suite 102.
Yes, sorry.
That's the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. We have flipped
Yeah. Good call.
and approved moving the civil and landscape to last and moving up the actual architecture. So the case before us is 860 Mayfield Road, Reliant Corporate Office, and we're doing the architecture. Steve, you doing civil and architecture?
No, I'm the technology guy to get the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you to show me your license.
Although nothing's.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh,
Okay,
there.
there you go. Got it. Ready?
Let me, on this case, ring in that we, many of us in Milton and on the board appreciate your 4, 5, 6 months of rework. I have the previous drawings before me that we voted to turn down. Thank you so much. This, in my view, and I'm only one vote, is significantly more Milton. And since you were here last, we now are close to forming the district at Mayfield. Do you know about that? We've had a moratorium in place about 9 months, and there are 22 parcels that are adjacent to you and down the street from this site, not you, down the street, that are going to be in a district that staff is finishing now. We've completed 3 public meetings with the,
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
and so this fits so much better with our vision of the district and what we want to see. And my personal opinion is much more attractive and unique that Tracy Ward's known for. So I want to get on record as you start to present that that we're really happy on. I'm really happy on where you are and being right at the front door of the district.
Appreciate
Now,
you
with that
saying
said-
that right up front.
What?
Can I go ahead?
Yes, you can move on.
Tracy Ward, 5155 Doubletree Drive in Cumming Benchmark Design, PC. You've got the images there, so let me just kind of run through this and then back up and you can take some, ask some questions, or we're probably going to have to tag team this a bit because the architecture is quite integrated into the site. So Charlie, to your point, the original courtesy review, we had a very, I would say, bold, classical solution that you all graciously said you liked it, but not for Milton. So there were three things that I recall that you requested in the change. One was the style, which we went away from the hard sort of neoclassical, heavy big porticos to what I call vernacular industrial, which is a sort of this cotton mill masonry aesthetic. But then you also were concerned about the scale of the building. And I think we've reduced it significantly, even though the floor plan in essence is still there, those big porches have kind of been reduced. So I think we met those two items. And then thirdly, the color scheme that we had presented, you didn't care for that either. I think it was kind of a gray scheme. And I think you said, I would like to see something in the red family.
Milton family.
Well, right. But specifically the brick color, you wanted to see something in the reds.
And I'd also be on record of keeping it with all those brick colors you and the developers have built on the extension of Heritage. And
Right.
those are really warm, great colors.
And that's what I was going to say. When I go to look for a red, I personally try and stay away from pinks and oranges. So I hate bringing exterior colors into interior lights. But if you can get the gist of it there, that red brick has earth tones in it. So we've actually pulled a couple of our primary paint colors out of those sort of coal charcoals that are in that brick that you see in the renderings. So that was, I just wanted to kind of compare what we have now to what we presented to you earlier. And then I'm gonna back up and let you ask questions, or if you want Steve to go ahead and roll through the sort of the site view and do a dual thing, or how do you want to
Two
approach this?
cases, so we're going to finish architecture and then
Okay,
call the
okay.
next case.
Okay.
So I do want to mention, not sure if you were the architect or not, but the first two buildings were Billy's and a couple of the other buildings. Some of these really nice features that are on your porch that are real unusual, really special, these are shown in those buildings, but they were never put on it. And Robin, we have gone back and found those cases and would like to look into those first two or three buildings, especially the red steel, because I don't think it was approved red steel. And I'd like to have you, and if you're the wrong person, just tell me who needs to find that. And there's renderings of what those buildings were going to be. And it's not big, but they weren't built in accordance with what was permit, or what was approved by DRB. Those buildings, and then the Billy's building, I mean, it's Billy's building, has red steel instead of the dark steel. And I think that's wrong. We need to be get into that, and get code enforcement to look at that. So my point is, these are really great, but if they're going to get valued engineered out, we shouldn't show them and approve them.
They are not going to get value engineered out.
Okay.
This owner specifically asked us to look at the railings and make them extraordinary. So that's why I showed you the details.
Well, and I'm talking not the railings, but underneath
Well,
the
that
features.
whole sort of composition is intentional, and it's not just to make a pretty rendering. It's going to get built just
Okay,
like you
good.
see it.
And I just bring that up because we've had this, we had another case over on Broadwell come back to us, and we can't afford all this that we showed you and you approved, and we're half built, and now we can't afford it.
Charlie, can I make a comment on that, on the rails?
Mhm.
On your rendering, which is, it's a fantastic job on this rendering, but it's showing the railings as horizontal railing
Oh, shoot, we're
But
showing the
then
wrong
you
one.
have, and then you have this,
Have a newer
packet you
rendering
have-
that didn't get in the packet somehow.
yeah, so you have this very ornate rail. So, I just want to make sure that the 3D rendering, while I feel is a very good, very nice rendering, it doesn't match the rest of your plans.
I hear you. I'm just telling you, you got the wrong one because I did an updated version of that photorealistic.
But we can only have what's in the packet.
I understand. I understand.
We don't make it up. You send us, we put it in.
I'm not accusing anybody, but I can tell you in an hour when I get back to my computer, I can send you the real one, which will answer your question.
All right, Ken's brought up a great comment, so we will ask you to send the 3D rendering, but so the handrail you want is not
This is what.
horizontal, but it's the ones that go up and down with.
Well, he's got a detailed drawing of it, and so.
Yeah, we have a detailed drawing in the packet, and I apologize, somehow that rendering got mixed up, but that photorealistic rendering, just so you know, is made from the CAD file. So it's not a watercolor freehand rendering.
Yeah.
It's real. You just got the wrong one, so I apologize.
All right, so in a minute, when we get to the motions, you make the motion and clean up the handrail issue.
Well, I'd like to actually elaborate on that. So I, for one, I feel like the rail is too ornate. If you look at the buildings that you've done, this first building over here has a little bit of that, but a lot less railing than this building does. Then as the buildings go down, then it has more vertical, just straight square pickets, and then it has a middle, design. I'm not going to pretend to know what that design style is called. And then as you go further, it's just straight vertical pickets, the iron railing. So obviously it's a downgrade as the buildings go as far as the railings are concerned. But for me personally, I'm just going to throw this out there. My opinion is I feel like there's so much rail on this building that I feel like, and this would probably benefit the owner, because I can't imagine that rail being cost efficient as drawn. So me personally, I would like to see, and you've got a little bit of that on the balconies where you just have that middle section with some straight, with it looks like some knuckles on there. But then on the railing for the large rear portion that oversees kind of the parking garage, it's just an extremely ornate rail. So I do applaud that. However, for me, it's a bit much. I would rather see more of just the vertical pickets with maybe just a center accent, because it's just a lot of metal going on. But you did mention that the owner wanted some fantastic rails in there. For me, it's a little much. So.
All right, let's all cover what we've already said. There's so much to like, but if there's any other things any of us don't like, let's ring in on that, and then we'll try to bring all that together.
I like the rails.
Do you?
Love
Okay.
the
Hey,
rails.
well, it's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. Okay. It's just that just from looking at this, there is so much rails on this that it just is going to seem busy to me. But while we're going on things that we're looking at, is there a reason why they're choosing to use the synthetic grass instead of real grass? Is it because half of it's under, or basically a portion below as far as the?
Exactly.
Okay. Is there a reason
And I
why?
think Steve will get to that in a moment, but there is a
Okay.
giant space
That's what I figured is
underneath,
there
and
was
we
some
wanted
sort
to
of-
totally conceal
One of you at
that.
a time, talk.
Yeah.
One of you at a time, we're recording this.
No, I kind of set it up. So I apologize. Go ahead.
To answer your question, yes, it's meant to totally conceal that room, because if I had to extrude that up and try and make something out of it, I don't think any of you would like it. Neither would I. So we tried to submerge it and camouflage it.
To that, is the landscape kind of design along with those checkered pavings. It just looks like a labyrinth or like, Alice in Wonderland kind of looking thing. It's a bit much again for me, although it's a nice design. It just, to me, it looks kind of trippy. So that's another comment I had.
So you're in agreement with him, Rachel?
I like the building a lot. The only thing, I'm trying to imagine it feeling like an old building that's been here for a long time, which I like that brick and all those details, but the top of it, the castle thing's kind of throwing me off.
I'm going to ring in on the castle.
Okay.
There's a little bit of that over there.
I can show you historic examples of that all over the southeast.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, maybe, yeah. I just don't know if I've seen it.
But
Maybe
that
it's here.
doesn't mean we like it for Milton and this corner. Across, I said this months ago, across from a very plain library, those little one-story medicals and the townhomes. And so part of our job is to make sure this fits in. So we got issues with the rails and we have inconsistencies here that we need to clean up. So when it does get approved, we know what got approved 5 years from now, or 3 or 2 when it gets built. And then how do you two feel about the castle tops?
That's the first thing I noticed. I don't have a problem with it, but it's like when you look at the front where it says Reliant, I mean, there's 2 towers on the side and the peak in the middle from the east elevation view. Again, I think the building's beautiful. I don't have an issue of any concerns about the railings or anything like that. It's just, that's the first thing when I looked up the east elevation, I go, that looks like a castle.
Well, so it has it on the building over here, but it's not just an open gap between, what do you call it, parapets or whatever, but it's the brick is recessed in a little bit. So it doesn't have that kind of open gap appeal, which I actually kind of like that. So I think I'd be okay with this look if it had some sort of just a continuous line, but then recess that middle portion a little bit just to give it a little bit of depth, but not as just hollow space through there, right?
So a solid wall.
Like you like the
Keep
detail.
the same look of that, but just
But the term is a solid wall.
Yeah.
Solid wall.
Yes.
So I love how different this building is than anything else. And keeping in consistent nature with the other buildings around, I think it's a bad idea because I don't like those buildings necessarily. And I think,
which one's
doctor's office, townhomes, I mean, the Milton Library, all of them are very different. And I think making a statement here is a good idea. I like this kind of architecture and creating something where people can look at it and say, heck yeah, like let's do something that's fun. I think that's a cool thing. The parapets, I wish that it was turned a little bit more. I think it'll actually show well in that roundabout the way it is. But you kind of wish it was more of a corner building. I do, because you kind of get a lot of the side over here, and then the front of it I get it's kind of the gateway coming into Crabapple, which is awesome. I just wish it was more of a kind of a corner lot.
I think you're going to catch it from all.
You might.
views as
You might.
drive around.
You
I'm
might.
not gonna miss it.
Well,
Yeah.
we can't change the site plan.
Yeah, of course, we're not changing that. I wish. As far as the rails go, there's a happy medium. Maybe we get some of the rails on top and some normal, I don't know.
All right, and the concern about time here. So we've got a castle top to talk about, and we got rails to talk about. Is there any other issues we want to talk about?
The one thing that I don't see is I would like to see some more plantings.
We're going to do that in landscape.
Yeah, it's next.
If you got a landscape comment, we've got the landscape expert sitting there.
Okay.
This is a different case. We have 2 cases tonight.
Well, I guess where I was going with that is I would actually be more inclined to have brick along the base of, the I guess, what do I say, eastern side of it or
It is the east elevation.
Yeah.
Where the stone is?
correct, yeah. So eastern side, I'd actually be more inclined to just stick with a brick there if there was some vegetation, 4 to 8 foot tall or something like that to kind of cover it, because I feel like that ties into the building a little bit more. But
Steve, is there a planter along this stone wall?
I
All
I
right.
just saw a couple like street trees.
Can you
and
look
stuff.
at Tracy's drawings? We're looking at the east elevation showing the stone retaining wall.
That's the east side that they're asking about.
And is there a planter along there when we get into your landscape?
There's landscaping that goes all along that frontage.
Okay,
We've
along
got
these retaining walls.
the retaining wall, well, they're actually, it's a foundation wall until it gets to a point.
Okay.
And then when I butt up against the neighboring property, I'm limited on plant space, but definitely along the frontage, we're definitely having
So here's my
several
question.
layers.
On the public right-of-ways, streets,
Yes.
these walls, whether they're retaining or basement walls or parking decks, these walls will, we get into your work, have a planter along there.
There will. They're not meant to be screened. We're meant to be accented because we're going to spend the money on the stone finish to add a natural material. We wanted to use the landscaping to enhance and accentuate that and not really screen.
All right, stay in focus. Tracy, how do you feel if we went with brick? Because the issue on the table now has been raised about the stone versus the brick. How do you feel if those walls were brick and not stone?
I'd prefer the stone. Again, historically, it's a foundation that typically was done with the field stone and then the brick transitioned from there up. And just aesthetically, forget history. I've got 2 buildings in Alpharetta that I use this exact product, same color and everything. It looks great.
All right,
And
let
it
me
gives
interrupt-
a
let me
pedestal
interrupt
foundation to the
for
building.
time. You went on the history and they were stone foundations. And so architecturally, you have a license and we don't. Correct?
Yeah.
You do have a license.
I don't know if you do, but I do.
I don't. So, and none of us do. So the stone history point and then changing above ground wins the moment, I think, on the stone. So can we all agree we're going to leave the stone?
Yeah, I'm fine with
fine.
the stone. I think for me, it was just, I prefer, some vegetation more so.
Well, we're
than-
going to get into that with
Yeah,
vegetation.
got it.
It
So-
looks like mountain stone on the black and white and, it looks like it's a different stone.
There's stone, Robin reminded me across the street that this could have a little bit of a relationship with as well. So we don't
Or
want
the
to get rid of
medical,
that.
medical building has some similar.
Yeah, it has to be historic stone and stone house.
Right.
So I think that makes it for a really nice reflection
Yeah.
of what was there. And
All right, so the board's rung in on these 3 or 4. Are there any more issues that we haven't discussed so that we can move to decisions on the 2 issues we have on the table? Any more issues, new issues? Okay, hearing none. Whoops.
Well, yeah, I mean, the renderings are very nice. I would like to see, obviously there's a lot more going on and to your point earlier, Charlie, about, the metal accents with the rivets and the shades and stuff like that. I don't see any kind of like specifics or materials and stuff like that. So that would be my concern, is just to make sure that those do get entered in as, necessary for approval for this.
And you're welcome to highlight that in your comments, because I can tell you, to give you a little bit of comfort, those little rivets and exposed bolts and fasteners, we literally do that on our project. Again, it's not just a rendering
Yeah, I've noticed.
to win you over and then it
But
never
let me
happens.
interrupt. That doesn't mean your builder, developer, owner does it.
I don't
because-
have total control, you're right.
Because there are
But
2 buildings that are way off.
I should have more control on this one. I'll tell
And
you
I've had some people call me about it that have said, you need to go do some homework because they didn't build these buildings as they were approved. And especially on the building, Robin, with the red paint. Okay. But between you and I, Bob got it 8 months ago and nothing's been done on it. Bob told me about it 8 months ago. So you haven't got it. And you can quote me with Bob tomorrow. He told me there was a problem 8 months ago. And I didn't say anything for 8 months, but it hadn't been handled. Okay? And there's other issues on all the bolts and really cool stuff that the builders didn't put on those buildings that were on your drawings. Okay? And as we've improved DRB the last 5 years, whatever we approve, we want to see it get built, or we want you to come back.
Me too.
So, yeah.
I'm on your side.
So,
It's more of just assuring that, because I do, I really like this building. I think this is, not that I didn't like the other building, but I did like this one. I feel like it's more fitting. And for me to be able to see this building built there, I would love to see that. I think our job is to make sure and assure at this point, before it moves forward, that it gets built as what we're seeing here.
All right, so.
Sorry, I just
yes,
have
sir.
one more thing. It's a
Go
quick thing about exterior lighting. You certainly don't have that much on the building besides under the porches and maybe a couple on the outside of the under porch. I think there's a good opportunity to have this well lit. I don't know if we need to approve that now. I suppose we would. Do you have any ideas on
It
that?
will sparkle a little bit, but I think we've already gotten some comments back from staff that the photometrics showed we had too much light. So we're already having to downplay some of it. So.
Okay.
Well, but
I can see the
photometrics
adverse
are
effect of
streetlights. Photometrics are streetlights, not enhancement of your brickwork.
Understood.
What do you think as the architect about some uplighting on some of these columns? Are you picking?
There is a small uplight that's about halfway up on the corners. And it's only that big and like 3
Oh, I
inches in
see it.
diameter. And
Barely
it's
see it.
halfway up, so it's shining up and down on those brick pilasters on the four
Well,
corners.
if you're gonna have the big, I don't know what you call it, the
But
tower.
I didn't want to overdo it, but you guys tell me what you
Well,
want to see.
you've been to Barnsley Gardens in the ruins, and they have the
Yeah,
tower and the
yeah.
ruins, and the kind of carcass of it's really good, and well lit. If you're gonna have a historic feature like this, it could be something kind of fun, but just my 2 cents. So,
All right, so let me, I think the lighting was a very good point. And I don't want to table this, so we're going to have an approval that requires you to bring certain things to staff. And when staff gets it, I want to get it so that one of us has seen it done. Okay? So we're going to get to an approval, but we need new renderings that don't have errors, that are really what you're going to build and really what we've approved. So we're going to get new renderings that show these things. And based on the board's comments, let's resolve the castle. How many, we love the building, so we don't need to say we love the building again. We've said, all of us have said that 2 or 3 times. And I'd like to get done before 10 o'clock. So we love the buildings. How many of us are unhappy with the tower castle look? Rachel?
I'd like to see it fit, like what it would look like filled in, just to
Well, we're
see.
not going to get to see it again, so
Yeah.
I'm going to step out there and say, I'd like to see the castle go away. How do you feel about that? And just be a solid parapet wall up there.
I would-
Any amount of brickwork you want to do is fine.
It's not a disaster, but I prefer it as is. Again, I think it's got some extraordinary character, and you're going to dumb it down a little bit if you get rid of it. My opinion.
All right, are we willing to go with the castle, or do we want to make a change? Since we're going to be dumbing it down.
Me personally, I would say I'm okay with keeping it, but recessing something in there to keep a straight line on the top.
Well, so you're where I am, you want it filled in. Because that's the right terminology. We're either going to fill it in and do brick accents, or we're going to leave it a castle.
Yeah, I would prefer to see that over this, because I'm just thinking of, and I get it, but I'm just thinking of, I can just see citizens saying, hey, look at the castle on the, and again, they don't have licenses, as Charlie pointed out, as neither do we, but I feel like that's the consensus that, we saw that for me, it would just be a recessed or just flat top across versus the step down. And
I don't want it to be known as the castle building.
Yeah.
I love this owner. He's a great guy. Corporate, I don't think we have any buildings that have a complete building with a corporate tenant in them.
Owner occupant national headquarters.
Yeah, this is a really great tenant and a really great, we need more office buildings that are full of office tenants in downtown Crabapple. So, but how many votes we got to close this? You only have 2 choices, no discussion. You want to close it in, or do you want to leave it open like it is. Which one do you want to do?
Leave it open.
Close it.
Close it. So it's 3-2. So we need to close it, do any amount of brickwork you want,
We'll come up with something.
but we don't want it to be a castle.
People love the castle buildings around here.
Reed, we just voted. Moving on.
Moving on.
Just saying.
3-2. We've given you the stone. You're right on the stone. Let's move to the, tell me about the paint. I didn't bring this up earlier. I should have. The rendering, I hate the paint color look in a rendering. What are you really going to paint that wood-sided area? I'm assuming that's wood-sided up there. Hardy
On the
board.
top?
The penthouse.
Can I come forward?
You can do right here. Just, this is what I'm talking about.
That is the precast color, which is also the border color, which is also going to be that top creamy color.
Is this all precast?
No, but it's.
Sand
I would
dollar.
match this color with all the creamy colors. That's board mat at the top.
And it's going to be painted as if it's the precast. So all these precast pieces, if they're precast,
Those are precast pieces, yes, and they're that color.
and so that color scheme goes up to the top.
Correct.
I actually particularly like that because it ties into the building next door, which is that lighter color to it. So it has that. Plus, when I'm looking at this, being at that it's, almost 65 foot tall and that section of it is recessed, I'm not as concerned about that because you're not really going to see that as much.
All right, I agree with you. Moving on, paint, that's fine. So now I think we're down to the handrails. And remember, we love the building. We don't need to repeat all that. We've heard all this. What are we going to do about these handrails? We've got one member saying they're too ornate. We've got the same board member saying, great catch, Ken, that some of them are one way and some of them, so we all missed that, but Ken, so you're wanting to get approval on style railings that are in the black lines.
Correct.
This is what
Correct.
you want to get approved.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to do a vote again and see what the majority of the board wants to do. You have a choice. I think, Ken, your request is regular pickets, less ornate. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I like style 2 railings for the second level. It's the same style essentially, but it's less of that same pattern. Specifically, I'd love to see the middle section stay, but then just the vertical pickets without the knuckles. And I don't think necessarily the top style, the double horizontal with the accent in between is necessary. But again, that's my.
Well, that's working with actual cast iron pieces that we're buying.
Yeah.
We have to play with that to
All right,
get the
but
right height.
here's the point. This is what he's requesting.
I got you.
And so that he's on record about what he wants to do. So Rachel, what, would you leave it as is or vote with Ken on what he thinks?
So the pickets are going to go, they are going to go vertical, not horizontal? Is that-
No,
They're
you-
vertical.
They
Are you
vertical.
looking at style 1 and style 2 railings?
Mhm.
Style 1 is much more ornate and style 2 has a few vertical pickets, 2 of them, and then a panel, 2 verticals, 2 more verticals and another panel. And I think Ken is wanting to work on the less ornate. Is that correct?
Just breaks it up, softens it a little bit.
You wanted to put that on the main level
Well, he's
as
got
well.
It's the style 2 is on the third level from which
Second level.
The second level.
Correct.
Style 1 is all around the bottom level. So if we were to do style 2 around the whole thing, it does break it up more, correct?
Yes, because like if you just look at this rendering, you're not getting
I'm
the
not
full
looking at that. I'm
magnitude.
looking
I
at
know,
the
but
other.
I'm saying you're not getting the full magnitude of how much of that railing there actually is.
All I see on the other.
It's
one,
around the
on that
entire, perimeter of the building.
It's not the entire perimeter. It's the
Well-
east side and the north side. And
It's on 2
you,
sides.
it's hard to illustrate that in a rendering. There's so much layering going
Mhm.
on that heavier, as you say, railing is actually interrupted by brick piers that the upper one is not. So it starts to spread it out and it's literally heavier, which means it's on the bottom while the other one's a little lighter and more feminine. It's on the higher porches. So again, there's this hierarchy play between the two. If we just make them all the same, you kind of lose that in your.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
Is the circle white or is it iron? And the little,
Circle.
the,
Oh, and the louver element, that's actually a light bulb.
oh, it's a light bulb.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually a
Oh,
little
okay.
glowing fixture.
Okay.
So, Rachel, Ken, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, would do style 2 everywhere. And that's his change, is that right? That you do style 2 everywhere?
Yeah, me personally, I would like to see that. Yeah.
Okay. So now, Rachel, how would you vote?
I don't know.
Hey, you take a minute?
Let me
Casey,
think
you got a
about it.
thought?
I'm okay with the way it looks on the east and north elevation drawing, not the digital rendering, not this one.
But if we all
Yes.
work off of this sheet, let's work off of this
Yeah, the
sheet.
flat elevations are
I
accurate.
think both of those
Which one?
options are on this render.
Okay.
Correct.
So like option 2 is only upstairs. I'm calling upstairs the top level.
It's on those porches.
Porches
Yeah,
and the patios and whatnot.
right, right.
Option 1 is everything down below, all above the parking garage and everything on the outside patio.
Correct.
And as you said, it's got those brick pillars on the north elevation that is also breaking that up.
Correct.
My only change, if we can't compromise on the way it is on this picture, I would say just do style 2 around the entire building.
Let's see,
Both floors.
I'm lost on the compromise.
Which is what I said.
The
Same thing
arch-
that Ken's saying.
Well, the architect has 2 sets of railings he wants to do.
Number one was how it is now.
They have both options on the building.
I'm confused. So there's the architect's plan.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. That's how I
I apologize. The perspective rendering is wrong as far as the railings go. The flat facades that you were just referencing show the 2 upper and lower railing types.
So the question before us is, are we going to do the whole job in style 2 railings? Correct me if I'm wrong. Style 2 railings versus the architect using 2 different types of railings. How would you
I think the
vote?
compromise would be only 2. Only option 2 is
Style 2,
Only option 2.
which was what my
The
recommendation.
north elevation?
Well, that's your recommendation.
No, it's,
I would see it this way, which is
Ah.
utilizing both options. That's my
Okay, so
recommendation.
you're going with the architect.
I'm going with yours.
So we can communicate. We're either going to listen to this thought that Ken has or the architect's as presented.
Correct.
You're going with as presented.
Yeah.
As presented.
As presented. So, I think Ken's got good points, but again, I keep going back to the gigantic shift you've done that we wanted to see. And you're telling me that this owner, and I've just finished the same misery in Alpharetta with my new 3-story. And they changed a million things, and none of them have licenses. So I just got some of my own medicine 2 weeks ago. So we've dealt with the handrails, and you're telling me the owner's seen all this and he loves it and wants to do it.
Yes.
Because we want him to get 99% of what he wants, given the shift.
Me too. And I'm just, again, I'm telling you, the little bolts and the rivets, I've got one under construction now on Main Street, and I'm getting all that.
Yes.
So it's not pie in the sky. It's going to
So
happen.
we get done. We've dealt with the castle top and it's gone. We're going with as you presented on your bolts and all this, but you got to get renderings that are accurate.
Will.
Into staff. Staff's going to get them to me the minute they get them, and then we'll be happy.
well, does Bob review that as well?
Bob's going to review during the permitting.
Okay, so he'll review the architecture of this to make sure, as well as sending them to Charlie or, okay.
But Bob's already seen this and had no comments, and he said, just, you all do what you think. And so that was at our meeting the other night. Robin, you were there when he pulled me aside and said, here's what's coming. So great building. I think other than updating your drawings and getting it accurate and getting rid of the castle, is there anything that we're not approving on these drawings. So we can say approved as submitted, clean up the errors in the drawings, and remove the castle, and that's the only changes we got.
Like, I think what you're thinking about is Adam Morgan's building.
Oh, it's beautiful.
West, west, it's really, really nice.
Well, when you're, sorry,
Yeah.
Lynn.
You brought up that, it was your idea, I agree with it. Robin, thanks for bringing that up. We would like, it is a magnificent building. It's on a main corner. And let's get a little more lighting to show off your brick and your work.
Certainly open to that.
So you pick where that should be highlighted, and it'll just be beautiful 30 years from now with some lighting on it. And I'll take him to lunch and make sure he changes the light bulbs. So they don't burn out. And so with that, we're going to approve Reliant Corporate Office, 860 Mayfield Road, the architecture, with the understanding that the renderings will be updated per our discussions tonight, submitted to staff, staff submits it to the chairman, and that we get rid of the castle top. Otherwise, it's approved as submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Oh, you got to vote on this one. You do get to vote on this one.
So I'll make a motion to approve conditions that we change or remove the castle top and make it a flat top, and that we revise the renderings to show the correct railing, and that the architectural features as shown within the renderings are reviewed and approved as presented.
And the lighting.
And the lighting.
Thanks. She's staying on Reed's lighting. They're on top of that lighting thing. All right, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tracy, so much. Steve, short answers. Okay?
Short answer.
And we'll-
Usually.
So I know Ken and I have some, let's do the civils first.
Okay. The civils really hasn't changed a whole lot from the original time we were here. Stormwater is still being handled in the common pond across the street. Water quality is being handled under the surface area of the parking, which is on the drive as you come in. We're using the existing curb cut, but making it bigger so that it accommodates emergency vehicles and fire vehicles. Right now, it's more of a residential driveway. Parking for the majority is under the building itself, and we're taking advantage of that. We are using a common dumpster with our neighbors, so we've worked out a deal with the neighboring property to the west. So we're going to have a combined dumpster in their parking area that we're going to work out. Since we're just an office use, our contribution is going to be minimal to that dumpster. But the two owners are working out the finances and how to make that work, both short-term and long-term.
On those kind of things, we're going to rely on staff and the permitting process to make sure those agreements are done. And
Right.
so I have a question on C3.0. That is the revisions. C3.0.
Yes, sir.
The entry to the townhomes is directly across the street from your entry, as it should be.
That's correct.
But, and Robin, this was my call to you earlier today, is there's no crosswalk here to get those residents from the townhomes across the street. If hopefully one of these office employees buys a townhouse and wants to live across the street.
The crosswalk is actually up towards the traffic circle because
Yeah.
with that being in the apex of a curve, it's really not a good place to have a pedestrian crossing. It creates a lot of blind areas.
But here's the problem we have. This group comes out of here continually. I've seen this 10 times. And then they cross the street because they're going to walk down the nicer sidewalk to the park. for the concerts. They're using this all the time. We need a crosswalk here because they're not going to walk to the corner. They're going to run across the street and push their strollers across the street.
I've had a similar situation to this on a development that I was working on, and fire had an issue with the crosswalk on a certain radius like that.
On a mid-block.
So it was new to me as well because I had the same thought, but the fire marshal did not allow on a certain radius. I don't know what this radius, it doesn't show me, but wouldn't allow a crosswalk at that when there was a crosswalk within a certain amount of distance from there for that exact reason. Now, whether or not the people cross the street illegally or not, it was brought to my attention that it doesn't meet the fire code as far as a street crossing.
All right, let's get staff to look into this for me.
That's what I was gonna recommend.
And there's no sign that says it's illegal to cross the street there. You can cross the street anywhere you want to.
Yeah, fair.
So the illegal is the
Right,
wrong
yeah.
term. And,
Not smart.
well, people are going to cross the street.
Yeah, they are. They are. Mhm.
And especially with a 100-house residential deal directly across the street from it. And this is their entry road. And normally in an entry to 80 houses, you're going to have a crosswalk on the street. If the fire marshal says, no, I'm good, we ask, our job is to protect the citizens. I worry about the citizens.
Okay.
And so that was my one big issue with your civil. You know, you guys do great work, and I'm sure that staff will review all the drainage and all this. I think Ken has a question on something on the front.
I do. So just first at glancing this, it says maximum lot coverage is 70%, yet the proposed lot coverage is 76%.
This is on the front page of your drawings, C1.0, the box right here.
I think we can recalculate because there was a significant right-of-way taking, which we're still able to take credit for, but was not involved in that calculation. When we bring that calculation in, we can get back to that lot coverage issue.
Okay. The other thing was.
Robin, does that sound like something you know about?
Totally correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. The other thing is that the parking provided says 44 spaces provided, yet the parking required is 46 spaces.
I think that's a typo. We've got 46 spaces in there. We had to rework some of the under building parking.
Okay.
But we're at our required minimum parking currently.
Okay. So,
So you got an error on these drawings.
Yep.
The latest revision that will be into the city will have that corrected. That was part of our latest
Okay,
revision.
so these aren't what you're trying to permit.
Right. It's
Okay.
close, but there's
No,
little
I'm
things
I'm
like
with
that.
you. If you found it and it's getting corrected. So
the other question I had, and it's more of a question, is why is it that the parking is at a diagonal? You've got some parking spaces that are 20 foot long, some that are 18 foot long, some that look like 12 foot long. And I know that's trying to maximize parking in there. I guess my question is, and as showing, this drawing shows that it's a one-way kind of going into
Right.
there.
It is.
But is there a reason for that? Is it just?
It's totally, there's two reasons for it. One is efficiency of parking, because when I did 90-degree angle, it becomes two-way parking. I don't have enough width between columns to make it work. So in order to get the numbers I needed and still have the flow of pattern, we had to do it as the angled parking to be able to get the required number.
Okay.
It is totally a geometry problem.
Okay. Then what is the, and I may have missed that, the allowable building height on this? Maybe it's a question for staff?
Yeah, that's probably.
3 stories, the first floor is like
25 feet. First floor can go up to.
Yeah.
So 66
But each
foot.
story can be 14 feet, so 14 times 3.
Okay, so 66 foot would be acceptable for this building?
on average, I mean, we don't. First floor can be a
Yeah, if the first floor is taller, up to 25 feet, and then the second and third floor can be 14 feet.
Maximum.
Yeah, maximum. So
Okay.
that's,
So we just go by story. We're
Yeah,
not
we
including
don't
the
really have
rooftop as
yeah.
well?
yeah, we don't have top max. We just go by floors. That's
Okay.
the
So we could
average.
have like a 60-foot top party deck up top because it's only done by floors?
It's only done by floors.
Okay. So we could have a 60-foot tall party deck on top?
Well, I
That's
think
that's
that-
more of a question for, I guess, the city moving forward. You know, is if it's only done by floors, maybe that's something that we need to look at.
Well, hypothetically.
If we're only
I think
doing
the same-
25 foot on the first floor,
Understood.
14 foot on the second floor, 14 foot on the third floor, but we're doing it by floors, we don't have a maximum building height, then we could come in here and build this and then build a 60-foot tall party pavilion on the top because it's not necessarily a floor.
Then it would be covered and be considered.
Fourth floor, and which is not allowed. We only allow up to 3 floors in this
Okay,
zone.
but part of this is covered though.
Part of the third floor is covered.
It's covered but not enclosed as conditioned space.
So covered,
So
not
it's more of an
enclosed.
outdoor amenity.
Okay.
I think Ken's point is maybe we should look at this going forward.
Yeah, it just wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, and do we want a party deck on every roof? And so maybe that's something I need to take up with the chairman of planning commission that we look at.
I think it's something because the pillars of the castle are not at 60 feet. There's that 25, 14, and 14, which gives you what, 54? I think he's just talking about total height.
Exactly. The bottom floor is 18, I think, and then 14, and then technically by building code, because we don't have any habitable space on the roof, that's not a floor.
Right.
It's just an accessible roof.
Right. And that's kind of where I was getting to is what if you want to do a 30-foot tall, you know,
Yeah, I can't
non-enclosed
answer
space,
that.
right? That's not, it's not for you guys. I'm just saying for staff, I think, because when I look at this and I'm standing in the parking deck, I'm looking at a 66-foot tall building based on y'all's drawings. From the, from the southern end, you know, we're only looking at 35 feet, 40 feet, right? So it's a significant difference. And I understand that from the back side of it, which is I'm not as concerned as I am from the street side. So that's where really that question came about, is because it will be a pretty large structure, but I just wanted to make sure that it was meeting the requirements. So.
All right, if there's no more questions on the civils, relying on permitting to catch any and all things that we don't know about, let's move to landscape. We have a complete set of landscape plans here for the board to review and comment on.
And on the screen is kind of a snapshot of the different plant material proposed in various places.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
On the perimeter public right-of-ways, what caliber trees are these?
The caliper of trees are 4-inch for the street trees. And then the crepe myrtles are going to be more of a height, but they'll be the equivalent of a 3 to 4-inch, which is probably, I would say, a 12-foot height at the time of planting.
Okay, so the hardwoods and street trees are all 4-inch caliber,
Yes, I believe that's correct.
and that's in these plans.
Yes.
Okay. Important street without a lot of landscaping, a lot of parking lots.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, we've tried to visually screen the parking from this so that you're both looking over it from the grade standpoint, so you're not looking at car grills, and there's landscaping in front as well as additional.
okay, there's all kinds of personal preferences, better ideas, but I, for one, would approve this as submitted. So let's see what the other three votes are. Other four votes.
I think it's fine.
So Casey's good with this? Reed, are you good with it?
I think it's great.
And some people, Steve, that I've worked with for 5 years, I have more faith in than others that come before us. And you and Scott Reese, I have a lot of confidence in.
Thank you.
Ken, where are you?
Yeah, I mean, that was my only concern earlier, or comment, I guess. I do understand why you're using the synthetic instead of real grass.
No, we are using real grass as in areas that we can that are not adjacent to this. So it's not that I'm turning my back on grass, but there's just, when you're dealing with it on the parking deck and then transitioning to grade, it's hard to find a place that makes sense to break. So we just carried it all the way through with the design. And then as we get away from it, we'll go back to the real turf.
That's not going to be a warranty nightmare with
No.
water down the line. So I get that. It does look kind of labyrinthy to me, but
The color shot does.
I would rather, what's that?
The colored shot does a little bit.
Yeah, but.
And it's
be
more to
honest with you, I
show the
would rather
differences.
see that
There's
than
going to be
just-
more of a subtle change in color.
Yeah.
But to show you that we're trying to create a pattern, it was the best way to give you that
No, I
visual.
like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would much prefer this over just a builder grade, less is more kind of thing. So that was really my only comment, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see the client wants to come in and actually spend some money on the prominent corner of downtown Milton. So
Well, and it's really great. I've said this earlier, I'll say it again, to have a great company and a great owner doing his building the way he wants it done. And there's a lot of my comments, just let's move on and get this done, that just reflects on the architect, you, and the owner. And this will be one of the very nicest. It's not a spec building. It's not a lease up, hope to find a bunch of tenants. It's one of the few corporate owners we're going to have in Crabapple at this point. All right, so let's get to a motion and a vote on the Reliant Corporate Office, 860 Mayfield Road, civil engineering and landscape plans. Somebody want to do a motion? Rachel, do a motion.
You gave me a hard one.
You got to do one eventually, and we've all done them. So being new on the board, you got to do your motion.
Charlie's gonna correct you.
Tell me, okay, I make a motion to, for agenda number 7B for the Reliant Corporate Office at 860 Mayfield Road to, for the landscaping and civil engineering plans
As submitted.
as submitted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Thanks for all your hard work. We're excited.
Just want to say I really like the building, Charlie.
I really like to do it. Again and again. Well, it was pretty brutal when, it was pretty brutal to have to say all we said 8 months ago.
I
So,
just appreciate you coming in and I mean, I think this is kind of what our job is as this board is to work with you guys and, although, ignore some of the comments we make, but I think for the best of it is we're here for the citizens and this is going to be an attribute to it. And so thank you.
all right, let's do item 8, new business. And under new business, I would like to discuss the Mayfield District for a minute. Doug is not here. He was on the steering committee and Ken was on the steering committee. So if I could get Ken to ring in on how those 3 meetings went, just big picture, and his thoughts on where we are today. It's not completed by any means, has to now go to 2 more boards. But what's your thoughts, having been on the steering committee?
I'm actually really impressed with, all the hard work that's gone into it, by both the developer, you, Charlie, the city, and then opening that up to the citizens. I mean, from everyone that I really talked to, it was a welcoming thing. And the fact that people got to, kind of give their opinion and the statistics show that by the way that TSW did it, whereas this is kind of what people were looking for. So I think it checks the box as far as, you know, what the citizens of the city are wanting, what we feel is a need, and then also going to be an attribute to the city. I really hope that the developer continues to move forward. As this is designed, from my discussion, that was my only thing, is I think that there is going to be a contention between a parking deck and a larger office building. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think most people want to see that. However, from my discussion with the developer, I'm pretty sure he's going to be fighting for that one pretty hard. So overall, I thought it was good. The process was great. The attendance was overwhelming, and it was just a pleasant surprise to see that many people actually in favor for you know, such a big project for the city, and what could be a, you know, a staple for the city of Milton and this downtown district. So
Very well said. I agree with all that. I was really surprised at the outpouring of citizens, and we do want to compliment the landowners. There's 22 parcels there, and all the landowners participated. Some didn't come to the meetings because they're happy with what we're doing, and they were very gracious to work with us and allow this 9-month moratorium, which may become a full year, to be in place. And it's been a great exercise. The consultants did a great job. The end plan's really super. We're also improving traffic as we clean up the corner at Mid-Broadwell and close that intersection. And again, nothing's final yet. Council has to vote on all this. But hopefully they will listen to everybody's recommendations and we'll get it approved. So it's been a great exercise. This is one of those things, we do a lot of small things, but this is tonight's Reliant building in the district of Mayfield are big issues we get to work on that make 30 and 50 years difference out in the future. So we spend a lot of time not doing much, but these come along a few times a year where we're making a significant difference as the design review board. This board is the one that turned down the demo permit that started this process 3.5 years ago. And the Historical Society has been very involved in this all along, and supported the board in our turning down that demo permit that's creating the district. So this board started it and had the authority to turn those down, the demo. And we had 3 people, myself and Doug and Ken, on the steering committee, working with everybody. So it's gone well. Staff did a great job. Bob's done a great job. He put a lot of energy in this. Robin, Shuba, you put a lot of time and energy in it. So everybody's done great, and the end result is great. The end result is so far superior. And I, as chairman and a developer, was very concerned that over the next 5 years, this would be a hodgepodge of odds and ends, because some people don't want to do anything for years. Some people want to do things right now, and we're not going to have a hodgepodge. We have a plan. Hopefully we're going to have a character area and an overlay that 10, 15, 20 years into the future, this work everybody did, landowners, Historical Society, council, moratorium, staff, really will benefit the city of Milton. And I, for one, can't wait to wander up and down and go to the restaurants and the bars and the pocket parks and all the fun things we're going to create, extending an already great crabapple. So is there any other discussion on that? New business?
I had a question that on the existing buildings, like the bicycle shop and the other ones too, is because they're not on the historical register, could they be moved?
That is a question I don't have an answer.
So no, if it's on the historical register, it cannot be removed from its original foundation.
Robin's coming in to answer our
We
question.
don't really have a historic register. We have a 1996 survey of historical structures. There's technically only 2 historically designated buildings, one being the senior center at Hopewell in Birmingham, and then
Birdhouse.
the general store.
Oh, no, I thought the birdhouse.
The birdhouse is at Hopewell in Birmingham. Thank you. So there's nothing to say something can't be moved. So in fact, a lot of Birmingham Crossroads, some of the buildings that are in that office section of the northwest quadrant had been moved to that location. So there's nothing to say you can't move a building. Because,
Okay.
All right, so let's move to old business. Any old business? And Shuba says none.
None.
So no old business. And so can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for a great meeting.
Thank you, Rachel.